Well, we continue with the broadcast this evening on Wednesday nights with myself, Inayat Wadi, and the second half of the show is dedicated to Aziz Goolam Hoosein Pahad, rahimahullah. Sadly, the third of the Pahad brothers whom we lost last week, and obviously his immense contribution to the country. And he obviously has been described by many as a giant in the apartheid struggle. And David Monyai, who actually wrote a tribute to Aziz Pahad, described him as a razor sharp activist diplomat and hailed for his role in international relations. And we know that South Africa is a lot poorer with the loss of this giant, and obviously contributing so much and sacrificing a lot as well. And this is the reason why we are paying tribute to the late Aziz Pahad this evening. And in the company of people who have been with him, in the company of people who have worked with him as well. And we are going to be joined now shortly by my two guests. And we're talking with Ismail Vadi. And Ismail Vadi obviously is an ANC veteran, a former Gauteng MEC for Transport and Roads, and also Welile Nhlapo, who is an ANC veteran, served as South Africa's ambassador to the United States and Burundi. And it's time now to welcome both my guests to the discussion this evening, to both of you, Welile, and to Ismail Vadi. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the show.
Good evening to you and your viewers. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Welile, just obviously someone of your stature is a veteran, and I'm sure you've had a close relationship with the late Aziz Pahad, and also looking at your position where you served as the South African ambassador to the United States and to Burundi, and Aziz Pahad featuring very, very prominently in international relations. Firstly, our condolences go out to the Pahad family. It's a third brother that they've lost, and clearly these are huge losses for the family, so our hearts go out to them. But also looking at yourself and just losing someone like Aziz Pahad, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, thanks. Condolences once again to his family, who's been going through a very difficult time, losing three of their loved ones. The passing of Aziz leaves a very big void in the lives of many South Africans and many people abroad, particularly within the diplomatic circles. Aziz was very well known, a friend to everybody. He cared about just about everything, development of young people, young diplomats in the Department of Foreign Affairs then and DIRCO later. And as a deputy minister, he was one of the most friendly that you could ever think of, behaving sometimes in a manner that will make other people even forget that there is a minister in their presence, would make everybody feel equal and valued. And Aziz could get the best out of everybody. Very jolly, always smiling, but very candid and strict, because he himself was a very disciplined person and paid a lot of attention to detail. A very good diplomat. I'm sure he'll be missed by many, even beyond many of the people who were involved with him in the liberation struggle.
Well, definitely, and also just to bring Ismail Badi into the discussion, and Ismail Badi, I'm sure that looking at yourself, and you've had a very long association with the Pahad family, with Aziz, and you know the family quite well. And just on a personal note as well, looking at him, looking at Aziz, looking at your relationship with him, and what he actually meant for the struggle, what he meant for the country. I think possibly Ismail Wadi may have be having some connection issues. So hopefully he will reconnect shortly. But Welile, just to come back to you while Ismail Wadi is trying to connect as well.
Okay.
Looking at Aziz and a family like Aziz's family, having grown up, and we just want to take a step back, having grown up in the brutal, cruel apartheid era, and to sacrifice everything, to sacrifice their families, and to do what they did during that time and during the struggle. And this is something that, sometimes in today's world, we actually forget these heroes. But these are people that should never, ever be forgotten. And their stories need to be told over and over again so that people can appreciate and can acknowledge their immense contribution that they've made to this country and the democracy that we enjoy today.
No, indeed. I mean, if you look at the background of Aziz and his whole family, and particularly himself and Isop, this is a family of very committed patriots. People who did not just look at what was happening in the country at the time during that difficult period, but were able to take the necessary decisions to make all the risks, take all the risks that they had taken to expose themselves and get involved in all the work that has been recorded in the Indian Congress Youth and ultimately at VETS, and until the time that they had to leave the country, because under a banning order, it becomes very difficult to do some of the things that you'd want to pursue, because then you are under watch almost 24 hours. And the only space that was available, unfortunately, and I'm saying that advisedly, was to take the option of joining the external mission of the African National Congress.
Yes, definitely. And also just looking at not only South Africa, but to the African continent as a whole, because South Africa was a relatively new player since the end of apartheid to enter into the African continent. And it did require someone with the skill of Aziz Pahad, someone with the experience of Aziz Pahad, how astute he was as a politician and as a diplomat in terms of shaping the post-apartheid South Africa and South Africa's position on the African continent.
You know, undoubtedly, Aziz was one of the architects of our foreign policy. From the time that he started working with Thabo Mbeki as his deputy in the Department of International Affairs of the ANC, and was seconded to the Transitional Executive Council Subcommittee on International Relations that started debating and shaping a future policy of South Africa. And Aziz led many of the delegations that went round to engage some of the countries that we enjoy a lot of good relations with today, and particularly going to the headquarters of the Organization of African Unity and engaging with the Secretary General then, Salim and the staff, just to position South Africa so that at the time when we were ready, we could then easily, and it was seamless, join the Organization of African Unity and became part of the free countries of this continent. We became the 53rd to join the Organization of African Unity in 1994, formally in July. And Aziz had done a lot of work during that process, building up to even the very constitution of our country, recognizing international relations as a core function of our government and putting in its rightful place the Department of Foreign Affairs, of which it became one of the longest serving deputy ministers.
Yes, I see Ismail Badi is connected, hopefully on a better signal as well. Ismail Badi, assalamu alaikum once again and welcome.
Walaikum salam. I'm sorry about what has happened.
No, it's fine. These things do happen. We obviously get used to it. But Ismail Bhai, just coming back to the issue that I raised with you right at the beginning and your association with the Pahad family, and I'm sure it goes very, very long. And I'm sure, you've known the Pahad brothers, Aziz in particular, whom we are paying tribute to this evening. And I just needed your thoughts, on your relationship with Aziz Pahad and how you've seen Aziz Pahad, develop over a period of time from being, in the struggle for freedom and also, as a diplomat, as a politician, and just looking at, generally his contribution to this country.
Look, Aziz has had a very pleasant demeanor, always jovial, always willing to share a joke with you, a quick smile here and there, very, very accessible. And, if you have any issue to raise, no matter how difficult it is, you could get him on the sidelines of Parliament quickly, have a chat with him, organize a cup of tea in the parliamentary restaurant. And I think that accessibility, that humility, and that simple sort of approach to life is what characterizes Aziz. As an activist, he comes from an industrial family. Both his mother and father, Goolam Pahad and Aminabai Pahad, were deeply involved in the struggle from the 1940s. In fact, there's just a bit of work we're doing on the Transvaal Indian Congress, and you'll see that in the 1996 Passive Resistance Campaign, his mother participated in that campaign as one of the resistors with Maulvi Kachalia. So the political pedigree of the family goes back to the 40s under the leadership of Dr. Yusuf Dadoo. Of course, Aziz was a youngster then. He attended the Central Indian High School, or what was known as the Congress School, from 1955 to the time that he matriculated. And then in the early 60s, Aziz got banned. Both him and S.A Pahad got banned, and both brothers then went to London into exile. So we had lost, I was really born in 1960, and we had no association with Aziz until in 1986, when I had gone to London for some political work and some research work. I had the good fortune of meeting with him, and we spent almost an entire night together talking about the development of politics in the country, birth of the F, the mass struggles that were unfolding. And of course, Aziz gave us some insight into how people
Yes, I think obviously Ismail Badi is having a bit of a problem. He's having a few challenges with regard to the signal strength. But just coming back to you, Welile, and we know why Aziz Pahad was so good at what he did, and particularly as a diplomat and when it came to shaping foreign policy and international relations. Because we know when he was in London, he studied. In fact, we learned that he's got a master's in politics and international relations. So he already at that point in time, when he was studying, he knew exactly where he wanted to go, in which direction he wanted to go. And this is where he was recognized post-apartheid by both the Mandela and the Thabo Mbeki governments. And they looked at him to basically even assist other diplomats sharpen their skills, and looking at South Africa and how the role South Africa had actually played in international relations, even looking at an organization like the Organization of African Unity when it was transformed into the African Union. And all of that needed skill. It needed someone who had a detailed understanding and the ability to carry out this task. And that man was Aziz Pahad.
Yeah, no, indeed. Aziz would describe him as a man of all seasons, very talented. And he understood the world and its challenges. You could ask him any question. Aziz will tell you exactly what the challenges are, what our response should be, what our policy is in relation to that country, and what are the responses that we should fashion out as a department, as diplomats, South African diplomats to engage in issues related to that country, be it bilaterally or within the multilateral system, be it at the United Nations or the Organization of African Unity, or is it even if it's the Arab League or the Organization of Islamic States. So he understood all the dynamics of what diplomacy is all about and all the relations that you needed to develop in order to engage all facets of relationships that are necessary to promote our foreign policy.
Yes, definitely. And I think what you're saying is very, very true. And I'm hoping Mr. Ismail Wadi is on a better signal strength. Can you hear me, Ismail Bhai? I think it's frozen. I would suggest that possibly maybe to say, okay, I see there's a bit of a delay, but you can continue.
Yeah, no. I was saying that being a deputy minister, he was placed in a particular strategic position because he would engage almost directly with most of the junior, even the most junior in the department. He knew everybody and was interested in their development, interested in their understanding of things, engaged them as individuals, even on their personal issues. He was somebody who was very empathetic. He would understand who the people he's working with are and what are their challenges and how to make sure that he can get the best out of them. And I'm sure even today, anytime when you go into DIRCO, everybody, when you ask about Aziz Pahad, even the latecomers, those who have joined late, they would know his name and they would know his contribution because everybody had one way or another related to Aziz Pahad because he was reaching out to the young diplomats. If you go to the diplomatic community that is accredited to South Africa, he knew all of them from different geographical regions. He could understand their issues, he could engage them and make sure that he pays attention to their needs and interests, like every foreign minister should do. And he was a very good host. And he would always be in their company to try understand them, even relate to them socially, so that they can be able to get the best of the understanding of their mission and what is it and the kind of relations that they want to build with our country. And on that basis, be able to raise real concrete issues that will benefit our bilateral relationships.
Yes, and also I think when you speak of like the corridors of the United Nations, and you being a diplomat yourself, being to the United States of America, and also being in Burundi as well, and looking at Aziz Pahad, and obviously South Africa became more visible in the United Nations in gatherings like the G7, the G20, the non-aligned movements. And all of that, Aziz Pahad played a very, very active role. But also at the same time, he understood where there was a crisis, particularly in Africa, looking at Middle East, looking at even Palestine, the crisis in Palestine, the DRC, Sudan, Burundi. All of these were security crises, and you would know, being in Burundi as well. And he was concerned. He was concerned about all these crises, but he didn't just sit back. He made sure that he was proactive and he did something about some of these crises that he saw taking place all around him.
After I came back from Ethiopia, where I was ambassador and also accredited to the Organization of African Unity, I was then assigned to be that Deputy Director General responsible for Africa. So all of the activities that we conducted on the continent, it was under his guidance. So all the conflicts that we got involved in, from Madagascar to Somalia to Burundi to the DRC, Cote d'Ivoire. You can name them. There are many of the conflicts that we got involved in the continent, trying to help in finding a solution to all the challenges that we're faced with. And the continent was looking up to us to make a contribution in that regard, because when Mandela went to Tunisia at the time when we were accepted as a member of the Organization of African Unity, he made a very clear commitment to this continent. And he said, in thanking them for supporting us all along in our struggle, that for the first time and since then, South Africa will no more be discussed as a country that is in trouble, that needed assistance, but as a country that can be relied on to contribute to finding solutions to all the challenges and problems that we're facing as a continent. So we had to live up to that commitment. And our foreign policy framework allowed us to actually be on the ground, to put our foot forward and do all the things that we've been able to do. To an extent that many people started saying that we're punching above our weight. That was not necessarily correct. We also use that phrase. But the reality is that we use our comparative advantage in order to make our contribution in the best way that we can be able to do so. Because we did, in the course of our own struggle, and the solutions that we're starting to find for our own country, becoming a reliable and dependable country that people can work with, and finding common solutions that are confronting us in this continent and beyond. Likewise, even in the United Nations, I went with Aziz several times to engage the United Nations on issues that are related to Africa, but also on broader issues that have to do with the mandate of the United Nations. Even then, he was well known, well clued up. Aziz will be prepared for every meeting, and he will make sure that everybody he meets is able to convey a message that is relevant for their attention, and then be able to respond to some of the things that we thought we needed to do together. He was a good messenger for South Africa.
Well, he certainly was. But just looking at where we are at this point in time, South Africa, from an international relations perspective, and my question to you would be, how does one compare the foreign policy of the current Ramaphosa administration versus that, of the Mbeki administration at the time, when Aziz Pahad had served as well, and also during the time of Nelson Mandela? Perhaps you could just, unpack, how does the international relations policy compare, through the various governments that we've had until now?
No, the values and principles that underpin our foreign policy and the mandate as is inscribed in the Constitution has not changed. That remains the foundation. What is changing continuously is the environment within which we implement our foreign policy. And you have to adjust. You therefore need diplomats who will have the skills to understand at every given turn what are the real issues and how we as South Africans should not only position ourselves, but also participate in ensuring that we become the good citizen, international citizen that we have declared ourselves to be, because we have subscribed to many of the principles that governs international relations. We've signed a lot of those documents, and therefore we're compelled to do what is correct. Now, in the changing circumstances, this is what becomes different. The challenges that we're facing Mandela, even Thabo Mbeki, or Zoma or even Khalima Motlanthe are different from what we have to deal with today. So it means we have to adjust and make sure that we remain consistent with our engagements and guided by the very principles that are the foundation of our foreign policy, and develop our diplomats accordingly and be able to respond to all the challenges and commitments that we have made, so that whenever we are expected to lend a hand or to be part of the processes that are seeking solutions, that we have to be there. So it means really you need people like Aziz who will understand the world, understand the dynamics of what is changing, where the world was, because the relationship that we have in a particular country today might change tomorrow. And you have to understand why those changes have taken place and what implications they have for our relations. So it's a lot of challenges, and you have to be alert continuously.
Well, I think, a lot has changed, and obviously we hear now about the global north and the global south. And it would have been quite interesting to see, how someone like Aziz Pahad would have navigated around these issues, where we've just come back out of a BRICS summit here in South Africa. We've seen a BRICS Plus now, an expansion of BRICS. And then obviously you're looking at the United States of America, you're looking at Western Europe, obviously being pretty skeptical about what's playing out with regard to BRICS and BRICS Plus as well. And, this is where you need somebody that is astute, who will be able to navigate through this entire scenario that is playing out. So, and I think this is where someone, of his skill, someone with his experience would be sorely missed as well, because we know where we are as South Africa. On the one hand, we're part of BRICS, but also you're reliant on the rest of the world as well, in terms of maintaining relationships, economic ties, all of that. And I'm just trying to think, what would someone like Aziz Pahad do in a situation like this?
Luckily, the developments that we are talking about happened when Aziz was quite well, still alert, and was following everything that was happening. We used to engage in discussions on these matters, even if we're both retired, with some of the other comrades and colleagues, paying attention to all the developments that have been taking place. We're part of what was called the Concerned African Group, and we made it our duty that every development, particularly within the Global South, we follow, engage, discuss, and try to make our contribution in the best possible way. We continue to be part of the international department, international subcommittee of the ANC, to try and contribute towards the shaping of the policy, and an understanding on the changing dynamics on how we should adjust. And we're doing the same thing with DIRCO, continuously engaged in DIRCO, in the training department with young diplomats, just trying to impart that knowledge to them, because we understood very clearly the extent and the depth of the changes that are taking place, and the shift that is taking place now to a multipolar world. It was very much on the horizon. And I can tell you, the first thing Aziz would always say, what is it that we need to do? Is this something that we need to pay attention to? And if so, how are we going about doing that? And sometimes we'll say, well, no, let's go to DIRCO and engage some of the colleagues who are there, just to try and get an understanding of how they are seeing these developments and what is it that they are doing, and how can we be of assistance from time to time, and in engaging them and all the conflicts that are taking place on the continent. So he was continuously involved. He understood the shifts that were taking place very well. And I think in the manner in which he was suggesting the kind of actions that are necessary, which will be informed by a very foreign policy and our experience, and bring into the fore our own institutional memory, because that's one of the things that is very critical. And in diplomacy, one of the things that count the most is the people you know anywhere. So that if you want to know about the issues and problems and challenges that are happening, you don't only follow the news, but you can contact people directly, engage them, and get some more knowledge in terms of what is possible and what needs to be done.
Yes, and just finally, there's certain reports that suggest that after Aziz Pahad having sacrificed so much, his family having contributed so much to this country and the democracy, and there are some reports that suggest that he may have died disappointed at the state of the democracy in this country as we sit right now.
Indeed, it will be a disfavor and an insult to him not to confirm what you have just said. He was very troubled, very disturbed about a number of things that were going wrong, but it didn't just sit back. It became part of a group that continuously raised these issues, engaged with the leadership of the ANC, and even in government to say, look, these things, there is no way that we can be doing things in the manner in which we are doing, that we have to be sensitive to the needs of our people, because that is what we are all about. It's not about ourselves, it's about our people. So Aziz put our people first, their needs, their interests, and was always concerned, always wanted to know what is happening. And not just only that, but how are we responding to it? And he would engage people and talk to people. So he was very much screwed up. So his disappointment was really on the basis of messages he was getting from real experiences of people who were themselves disappointed. People who the expectations were not being met. And of course, the corruption that was taking place. And people, some of the people, even our comrades that we've known, stealing the very money that is supposed to address the needs of the people. Aziz would never take any of that. And you'll speak out on those issues and try to find ways and means of it, dissuading people away from that kind of behavior. And anybody who knows Aziz would never take a chance and try to get him to understand wrong things. That is not Aziz. Aziz would never accept that.
Well, I must say,
Yes.
I must say it's been fascinating engaging with you, and for someone who's known Aziz so well, who's worked with him so closely, and obviously, yourself as a veteran as well. And it's just said that we have been losing people like Aziz Pahad, like S.A Pahad, and many others. And we've heard about Jerry Kovadia today as well. And, we are losing all these people. And at the end of the day, I know obviously veterans like yourself, largely disappointed at some of the developments that have been playing out in the political landscape in South Africa with the ruling party in particular. And it has come as a huge disappointment to many. But, we hope that still having people like yourselves, we still have got some hope in this country. And, as we mourn these people, as we mourn people like S.A Pahad, Jerry Kovadia, a medical giant, a patriot, a political activist, all of that. And we just pray that, the Almighty grants us the ability to get this country back on track to where it is and where it was hoped to go at the end of apartheid, and since we became a democracy. But we still remain hopeful. But for now, Mr. Welile Nhlapo, we thank you, sir, for your time and in paying tribute to the great, to this legendary personality, Aziz Pahad, who has contributed so much to the country. And we pray that, may he rest in peace. We make dua for him, And we pray for his salvation, that he be rewarded in full for his wonderful efforts and all the sacrifices that he's made to this country, so that we can enjoy this democracy today.
No, thank you very much. I can promise you that we commit to make sure that this legacy lives on and that his contribution is not in vain.
All the best to you, sir. Once again, thank you, and please take care.
Thank you very much.
Welile Nhlapo with us this evening, paying tribute to the legendary Aziz Goolam Hoosein Pahad. And also, we need to apologize. We know Ismail Wadi obviously was having certain challenges, connection issues that he had. So unfortunately, we were unable to engage with him in paying tribute to Aziz Pahad. But with that, I'm going to be signing off from myself and the team here at Salam Media. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.